has a new injury. What does this mean for AD, the Mavs, and the trade market moving forward? On today's One More Thing of Locked On Mavs.
I'm not a doctor, so.
That's it. It's me versus the machine.
I don't know.
Satnam change.
Nice penetrating thrust to the middle. Hot man, the hot player.
Wait. One more thing.
Fired up.
You are locked on the Dallas Mavericks. This is one of your hosts, Isaac Harris, covering the Mavs for the last 10 years alongside my good friend Nick Angstead. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs the #1 sports podcasting network out there. Thanks for all of our people that are in the Everdayer program, our new program that we have at Discord and ad-free episodes. And we're talking about an Anthony Davis injury coming out of Christmas. Man, it was 12 months ago. Last Christmas, it was the last time we saw Luka Doncic in a Mavs jersey exiting the game for an injury. Will this be the last time we see Anthony Davis in a Mavs jersey on Christmas Day exiting with an injury? We shall see. So I just want to talk about the AD injury. I want to talk about the latest timetables of that as I'm recording this a little after 2 p.m. on December 26th. And then kind of like where the Mavs are at currently, like what's the decisions on the table? What's this mean for AD, the Mavs in the coming weeks, and then a little bit on AD's next contract. So Anthony Davis leaves the game on Christmas Day. A lot of you are probably watching on Christmas, and he leaves the game. It's non-contact. He's running down the floor. Najee throws the ball, and you're like, where did Najee throw this ball to? Like, or no one was around that. He thought Anthony Davis was going to be cutting to the basket on a fast break. AD comes, holding his groin, just exit the game completely, goes to the bench, and then eventually goes to the locker room. We never see him again. It's reported at the time that it was out of abundance of caution, air quotes. I'm putting that up there. I might have been on a few text threads or chains laughing about, we were all like, all right, abundance of caution. We'll see if that's the case. Shocker, was not the case that it was not out of abundance of caution, because Shams reports, it says it is on the morning of 26, earlier this morning, it is a minor groin strain for Anthony Davis. He's going to miss a few games, according to Shams. Jeff in Street Clothes on Twitter, who's great with sports injuries in general, but especially NBA ones, tweets out and says the average missed time is 3 games, just 3 games, 8 days for Anthony Davis. You're like, all right, if we're just dealing with a couple days, a couple games, week and a half. Then Mark Stein comes out and says, hey, the team is still determining the precise timetable for Anthony Davis. And that just gives you flashbacks to the calf strain that kept Anthony Davis out for double-digit games, in which AD, Clutch, his camp, was like, hey, we're ready to go. We want to come back. We want to play. We're good to go. That's when Dumont got involved with it. That was when Nico was still employed by the Mavs. And, Nico was wanting him to come back. Dumont swoops in, gets involved. That was a little like some of the red flags of like, hey, Nico's about to be gone. And Dumont's like, no, we're going to be extra cautious with this. Delays it another week or two. And then Anthony Davis comes back, plays against the Lakers there. So just a reminder on this. I said this in our subtext, our program, which we text out things to our Locked On Mavs insiders. I say, hey, just remember in the reporting wars out there, remember who's tied to different camps, right? And just for loosely, just remember, Shams is pretty plugged in with Clutch and that camp. Mark Stein is really plugged in with the Mavs. So I'm not going to say anything more from that. You can read into stuff how you want, but just keep those in mind whenever you have different stories or timetables or kind of viewpoints, how certain things are portrayed and stuff. So where are they at now? Like, what does this look like for AD and the Mavs? Because I think it is in the ironic timing of this was, Dallas comes off of beating Denver. They've won 6 out of 10 games. Had to get that right. online, some of the Twitter, social media conversations out there was like, whoa, Nico Vision, which I still maintain if that is the biggest IQ test in sports right now, is the people who are claiming Cooper Flagg was part of Nico's vision, or Nico had anything to do with Cooper Flagg. But there's some small attempts to try to do some victory lapping for the pro Nico crowd, and then this injury happens. It's like, dude, the irony of that. But the realistic part about AD in Dallas is he has yet to play in 6 straight games for the Mavs. Going back since he got traded for Luka Doncic, he comes over in that trade last February. He has only played in 5 straight games, like 3 or 4 times, and he's yet to play 6 straight games. Christmas Day was his 5th straight game, and if he just played one more game after that, that would have broken that record. He would have played in 6 straight games, and it's not going to happen. And it's still, that streak is going to continue, which is crazy to come and think about it. Like, he's $54 million player, and he, to this point, can't play in 6 straight games for Dallas. He's played in 16 of 30 games this year for Dallas. He played in 9 of 32 games last year for Dallas. If you do the math on that, he's played in 25 out of 62 total games in Dallas. 25 out of 62. I think it was Jeff in Street Clothes on Twitter who said that this is his 13th groin injury in his career. 13. I would not want 13 groin injuries in my career. And just another thing about the AD time in Dallas is when you trade for somebody that's the centerpiece of a Luka deal to be, your next face basically of the franchise until you got Cooper, was, he's making $54 million. We're talking about him being, top 10, top 15 player when he's healthy, the ultimate caveat. And he scored over 30 points 5 times since he's been in Dallas. And I've been saying recently over the past few weeks, he put up back-to-back 30-point games. That's probably some of the best basketball he's played. That there's a difference between saying, hey, Anthony Davis has been playing good basketball, which he has. And I'm like, dude, AD's been playing good basketball. Is he playing top 10, $54 million worth type of play on the basketball court for the Mavericks? No. He's not. Like, you need guys to those guys need to take you home against a game against New Orleans, or have more than 5 30-point games in your career so far in Dallas. You just need a little bit more, and it needs to be consistent, and you need him to be healthy. And that's and you wrap all of that up into he's entering into the final year of a contract next season, in which next year in 2026, there is an expectation for a contract extension. Like, this is something we've been talking about. I even said the other day, whatever happens with Anthony Davis on the trade market over the next few weeks or in this next month, it might be determined more about that next contract extension rather than what direction the Mavs want to go this season. So that's I think a lot of people, it's like, oh, well, if they want to tank, they trade AD, which some of that is correlated for sure. But it might be, there is a strong desire from the AD side and from Clutch of, like, we're angling for that next contract extension. So who's going to be giving that to us? And if it's not Dallas, it could be welcome from both sides on that. Let's take a quick break, and I want to come back and talk about what does it change over the next coming weeks or the next month. And if, depending on what camp you're in, if you're in team, hey, I want to go for it camp, or if you're in team tank camp, however you want to go, we'll look at both sides of that. And then I want to look at his next contract here at the end of this. This podcast is brought to you by our friends over at DoorDash. The season's heating up, and DoorDash has a way to keep fans in their bag the whole way through. Whether you're watching the highlights, tunnel fits, or just your favorite player, DoorDash makes the entire season more fun because every player has their bag. With DoorDash, fans have one too. DoorDash keeps your snacks stocked, your gear fresh, and your watch party vibes absolutely on point. Guys, just a quick note on this. I think a lot of people think that DoorDash is just food. The amount of stuff you can get on DoorDash is unbelievable. There are nights when your team stresses you out. Let DoorDash become your post-game therapy. That's kind of scary, but it's true. Sometimes you need the dessert now. Don't stress eat, guys. From tip-off to overtime, stay in your bag or order on DoorDash. Get snacks, drinks, gear, whatever gets you through the season, delivered right to your door. DoorDash in your bag all season long. This podcast is also brought to you by our longtime friends over at Game Time. The World Cup is coming to North America for the first time since 1994 with 48 teams for the first time ever. It's going to be massive. Let's be honest. Getting tickets is usually the hardest part. I've been talking multiple conversations over the past few weeks about World Cup tickets and how ungodly the prices are right now. Because here in DFW, we're getting multiple games, Argentina, Japan, England, and then some games after that later on in the tournament. That should be amazing. With Game Time, you could track the price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands. It makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You pull up the app, and the layout makes it so simple to scroll through the matchups and compare seat views. Here's my favorite part. Prices include fees up front. I hate the fees at the end. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets in every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Game Time. Cool.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, talking about the Mavs, talking about Anthony Davis and this latest Anthony Davis injury. So what's the change for the Mavs right now? The Mavs are currently 8 games back from 500, from being 500 in the league right now. They're 8 games back from the 6th spot in the West, which is currently the Houston Rockets. So 8 games back from that spot directly above the play-in tournament there. And I just picked like the 5th best odds in the, if we're going to try to track, like if they want to go up or they were going to go down. I just picked the 5th best odds in the draft and try to, and look at the games between that. They're 2.5 games back, air quote, or in front of the 5th best odds in this upcoming draft on Tankathon. So that's where the Mavs are. What does it change? Well, if your team go for it, which a lot of you in the comments over the past weeks and months, you have absolutely hated my guts for being Team Tank. This is the first time I've been on Team Tank in my career and covering the Mavs, like honestly, or at least this early in the season. I was Team Tank at the very end of the pre-Lively draft. I'm like, guys, just lose out on this and make sure you keep that pick to get a Dereck Lively, which won't. But I've never been Team Tank this early in the season. I've always been so anti-tank, and all the arguing points that people are throwing at me now. I'm like, I've been in that camp. I'm in that camp most years. But there are a lot of you that are like, hey, team, go for it. You're still in AD's camp. Maybe you're a family of Nico Harrison. You're still you're a Nico believer in that. Well, this AD injury definitely hurts because the Mavs are 4-12 this season when AD does not play. So AD does impact winning basketball for the Mavs. I mean, heck, that's a pretty bad record without Anthony Davis. So it hurts them a lot to try to go for it. You're 8 games back from the 6th spot. And I know a lot of people, we get wrapped up into the, they're 5 games back from this spot. And it's like, well, if they just win 5 games, they're there. It doesn't work that way. You got to factor in the teams in front of you, and they got to lose games too. So I think a lot of times, including myself, I get wrapped up in that, and I'm like, oh, they could just go on a little run there. It's like, all right, well, you got to have those teams fall back too. So 8 games back from the 6th spot. If let's just say Anthony Davis misses the next, let's just say 3 to 4 games, and let's just say it is just 3 games or 4 games. The next teams on the schedule: Kings, Blazers, Sixers, Rockets. So you could look at it and say, hey, if your team go for it, there could be worse opponents, right? Like if your team go for it, I want to go for one of those play-in spots. Hey, we can beat the Kings without AD. We can beat the Blazers without AD. I can hear those arguments for sure. I mean, especially how Cooper's playing. And Sixers, even though Sixers beat you last time, are they completely unbeatable without AD? We'll see. Rockets probably going to be pretty hard to beat them without Anthony Davis. So, yeah, I mean, they're 4-12 without AD. So this really hurts your case if you're going for it. If you're Team Tank, then that means you're probably Team Trade AD, and this hurts his value, right? Like one of the whole reasons why you're keeping AD right now, like, let's say the Mavs have already decided on, hey, this is kind of the direction we're going, but we want to build AD's value up. There's a lot of people around the league, a lot of people in media. It's like, man, they got to have AD play a lot of different games, or a lot of consecutive games, which is just 5 right now, to prove his value, to show that he can play at this high level. And if they've already decided they're going to trade him, well, this hurts because now this is another injury, and it's an injury he's had 13 past groin injuries before. So it definitely hurts his trade value. And yeah, so but also if your team tank, then the record shows you Mavs are 4-12 without Anthony Davis. So AD impacts winning. So if your team tank, you're kind of like the diamond in the rough of that. Like, well, at least you're losing games at that point. So yeah, where I'm kind of at with it is, I was pretty strong in the camp of once they dug their hole of where they were at, the first AD injury, Lively's out for the season, Kyrie's not coming back till probably January. Once they dug their hole as deep as they did, and you look at their future assets and all, I talked about this on the show before. Some of you probably yelling at me already. I was in the camp of, you got to trade AD the moment he gets healthy again. The moment he's ready to play and he plays even a game or two, like, you got to take the first deal there. And I know a lot of you disagree. Is like, no, we got to get the haul back for him. We got it. I'm kind of done with the roller coaster. I'm just done with as soon as the AD trade happened, or as soon as they fired Nico Harrison, I did a reel that went on Instagram, YouTube, whatever. And it was basically, I'm like, you can't tie whoever is the next person running the show in Dallas. Right now it's 2 interim GMs and Jason Kidd. And Dumont and stuff. Like, you can't tie what you get back from Anthony Davis for Luka Doncic. You have to forget about the past. As hard as it is, and even as impossible as it probably is, you got to look at Cooper Flagg and moving forward. And you got to look at the Anthony Davis asset right now, disconnected from the Luka trade, because whatever you trade Anthony Davis for, it's inevitable. There's going to be tweets fired around. Everybody's favorite tweet is going to be like, oh my gosh, they traded Luka Doncic for Max Christie, a first round pick, and then whatever the AD return is. And it's just like, okay, cool. But you just gotta take those. You gotta take those punches. You gotta take those those tweets and just kind of go with it, because I think the best case scenario for them, they should have already traded Anthony Davis, in my opinion, because I don't want any part of the next contract either. Like, even if I got a text back today on our insider program, like, what's the next contract that you're okay with? And it's like, guys, even if there's no one willing to give the max contract extension, Clutch is not going to go into it saying, all right, who's giving us the mid-level? That's not how it is. Like, they might lower the years, they might lower the amount just a little bit, but I don't want to be in the Anthony Davis business paying $40 million, $50 million, even if it's like 2 years. Do y'all want to? He hasn't played in 6 straight games for Dallas. Do y'all want to be on this roller coaster? And I would rather build around Cooper. Like, do this thing. Like, Cooper is so good that I think you need to try to look at the assets you have, build upon the young assets that you have, to where this can be sustainable later on, to where we're not looking at year 4 and 5 of Cooper Flagg and the team sucks. We don't have control of our picks, and you don't have a ton of flexibility, and you're trying to overpay for people like a Wes Matthews, like you did in the past. And it's just like, all right, can we not let's look at this now. Let's turn the page to Cooper now. And on top of that is AD doesn't. Shocker. AD doesn't want to play the 5, but he doesn't have the body for the 4. And that's the I think conundrum too, on top of the next contract, on top of the injuries, everything is he hasn't taken the slimmer Tim Duncan, Dirk Nowitzki route so far in his 30s. He's still younger in his 30s to where he can take that route, but he's taken the bulk up route, which is more suited for like a 5, to be honest, but he still wants to play the 4. And we still got a Jason Kidd quote just last week saying, man, we're looking to get him back at the 4 soon. They're like, no, what? No. Because he's clearly best at the 5. So, and I also want to say this. I hate this for AD as a person, because it was a sucky situation getting tied into the Luka trade. Like, he comes to Dallas, and it's almost impossible, right? Like, I mean, you have to step into this. You are the player that they got back from Luka Doncic, the worst trade in NBA history. And you're the guy. Like, and he had his moment, and I was so happy for him. He's like, I'm going to bring the city, I'm here. I'm bringing the city back. And I'm like, all right, dude, this is awesome. And he just hasn't been able to do that. I mean, he's played in 25 of the 62 games that, possible in Dallas so far. And it was kind of an impossible situation for him to step in because he didn't have anything to do with it. For everything I've heard about AD behind the scenes, he has been nothing but a pro, a champ, a good teammate. He's done stuff in the community, just all the stuff. Like he has handled it about as best as you possibly can. And so it's even, it's hard to even like cover it, have an opinion. When you have a podcast like this, you got to share opinions because you can't just always ride the fence and just be like, well, I don't know. And, just kind of go back and forth. People want opinions, and opinions is what drives views, right? Because people love to agree with opinions and people love to disagree with opinions. And it's like, all right, well, who do you think what he thinks? And that's just part of like content and covering a team. And I hate that, you got a guy that's such a good dude that I think was such an impossible situation, and he's done everything he could possibly do the right way, probably on this side. But yet I'm in the camp of like, they got to trade him for like whatever comes up next, because they got to turn the page completely to Cooper Flagg, and we'll see what happens over the coming weeks. I've been in the camp. I've been in the camp since the moment that they fired Nico Harrison. I thought that was the writing on the wall that like they're going to trade Anthony Davis. So I've still been in that camp. I've been in that camp all along that they're trading Anthony Davis. I'm still in that camp now that I think he gets traded before the February deadline. And we'll see what happens with Gafford, Clay, and D'Lo's going to be gone too. But yeah, it's a bummer. It's a bummer for both sides. If your team tank or if your team go for it, it's a bummer for Anthony Davis. And the question for the Mavs is, how long do they want to be on this roller coaster? We'll be back for a post-game pod after the Kings game on Saturday.